Senator, nice to see you, sir.
Nice to see you.
Gave a speech on America's role in the world. Well, how do you perceive it?
Well, I think it's an important role. I don't think there's a substitute for America. We can't solve every problem in the world. There are a lot of, but there are very few parts of the world that what's happening there will ultimately impact us. Was one example. Look at what's happening in Europe. The economic crisis that's happening in Europe is having a direct impact on our economy here at home. So I think we have to care about what's happening in the world, and in those places where we can make a difference, we should try to, if it's in our national interest to do so.
All right, some things that we really care about, like we really care about what's going on with Europe and
Right.
its economic scene. I don't know, is there anything we can do? I mean, we're sort of sitting there watching and hoping.
Well, there's not a lot we can do about Europe per se in terms of their economic crisis. That's based on some of the decisions they made with regards to government spending, similar to the ones we've made here in this country as well. On the other hand, the whole conflict in Libya is an example of something that could have impacted Europe even worse. It's the reason why both England and France took such an interest in what was happening there. A significant amount of the oil and energy supply in Europe comes from Libya. And so a disruption in Libya, a significant long-term disruption, could have a dramatic economic impact among our strongest allies there in Europe, which ultimately would reflect back on America. So that's just one example of how things halfway around the world ultimately impact our daily lives here in this country.
One foreign policy issue that's enormously important to all of America, and especially to Jewish Americans, is the whole issue of Israel. The Palestinians are going to go to the UN, ask to be recognized, or ask for statehood. That's created an enormous problem in terms of how we handle it. They're our friends, and what do we do? So your suggestion?
Well, one of the things I've tried to do is engage with some of the leaders in the Western Hemisphere in Latin America and ask those countries. I've written letters to some of their presidents and asked them not to vote for this, because I think it sets the peace prospect back. I mean, the key there is to have a Jewish state, and for the Palestinians to recognize the right of a Jewish state, that Israel is a Jewish state and has a right to exist as such. I think that's what the peace process starting point needs to be, and I think a vote by the UN could actually set us back in that regard. At a time when Israel is already surrounded by tremendous uncertainty, we saw the events in Cairo last week, we watch what's happening in Syria, the uncertainty about what's going to come next in Egypt. Jordan has its challenges. And Iran continues to move forward with their nuclear ambitions. All of these things combined are putting Israel in a very difficult position, which makes it harder than ever to reach that settlement that I think everyone, including the Israelis, would like to have. So I hope that at least our allies and our friends in the Western Hemisphere will join the United States in voting against that sort of measure.
It's not going to happen. I mean, it looks like the vote is going to go through. It looks like now the Security Council may veto it, but it's going to go through. So now what?
Well, ultimately, I mean, it's going to be vetoed and by the United States at the Security Council, and it won't go into play. But the psychological impact that it could have could be significant. I don't want to overplay it at the end of the day, but I do think it's a step back, and I think it makes peace in the region harder to achieve, not easier. But I'm not giving up on some of these countries. Our allies in Mexico, Jamaica, these are small countries, but they have a vote, and we hope we can get them on our side. Colombia, nations that we hope will vote for us, and we hope to recruit others to the cause as well.
All right, the President's Jobs Act. Senator DeMint says that he doesn't think it's going to pass, but your thoughts on it? Is it a good start?
Well, the only job I think it's designed to protect is his. And that's why he's put it out. Look, there are some things there, the payroll tax holiday, that's fine, but the plan is not a serious effort to create jobs in America.
You think it's just a political move?
I think it's largely a political move and the need to do something. But look, jobs issue is an enormous issue. As I've said repeatedly, the biggest issue in Washington is the debt, but the biggest issue in America are jobs. And I want us to solve that. It shouldn't be a partisan issue. What the President is saying he wants to do to help create jobs in America, they're not going to work. It's basically a lot of the stuff we've tried before. All it does is cost us money. It doesn't end up creating economic opportunity. We really need are some basic things. They're not exciting. The media hates it when I say it because they say, well, that's not new. It's nothing novel. That's like telling a farmer, stop focusing on fertilizer, soil, and water. Well, what it takes to grow the economy is tax reform, regulatory reform, some certainty about our debt. These are the things that have worked in the past. And these are things that will work in the future. That's what we as policymakers should be focused on here in Washington.
All right, you're a freshman senator. Are you a little bit surprised at how slowly things get changed around here? You frustrated at all? Or?
Yeah, I mean, the process was designed to move slowly because the framers and the founders never envisioned a federal government that did as much as this federal government does. That being said, I do think we have some really important issues that we have to tackle. If we tackle these issues, if we do a few simple but important things, I actually think the 21st century will be better than the 20th. I think if we do a few things, we could have one of the largest economic expansions in American history. There's a lot of people standing on the sidelines ready to invest in America's future, but they're not going to do it unless our tax code works, unless our regulations are under control, and unless we have a plan to deal with our national debt. If we do that, I think tomorrow is going to be better than today.
All right, if you could pull the President aside and have a secret conversation with him, what would one thing you'd say to him?
I tell him the free enterprise system works really well. Nothing's perfect. perfect, but it's created more opportunity, more wealth, more prosperity, more upward mobility than any other economic system in the world. I tell him to give the free enterprise system a chance again here in America.
You think he doesn't think it works?
I think he, he's part of a group of people that actually think the free enterprise system to some extent is unfair. It leads to too much inequality, that we should be moving towards economic justice instead of economic opportunity. And I think he misunderstands the role of government and what government can do. I think he sincerely believes that presidents and senators can create jobs, and there are things we can do to create an environment for job creation. But ultimately, jobs are created by everyday people from all walks of life that start a business or grow an existing business. Our job is to make it easier for them to do that. I think if the president understood that, we'd be better off economically.
Senator, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Likewise.